Human resources departments are responsible for scheduling job interviews, so by now, HR has done a review of all applicants and made a first cut of people they would like to contact. You're on that list. So if your employer is big enough to have an HR department, then it's likely your interview process will involve one or more meetings to determine if you're the right candidate. The first one is likely to be over the phone, and it's simply called the phone screen. This particular call will involve an HR employee or contractor who will ask some introductory questions to make sure you have the experience and willingness to do the job. Formal interviews are typically in person, but it's important to treat the screening call like an interview. Be polite, be direct, and make sure you know everything you should about the job and the prospective employer. Think of examples of work challenges you faced that would be relevant to the particular opening you're discussing. You may be asked about them. From the HR department's standpoint, the phone screen helps them weed out unacceptable applicants. They not only want to confirm information and experience, they also want to get an initial impression of how candidates think and express themselves. And it should be mentioned that phone screening has become particularly important because it saves the hiring organization money and time. It's important for you to know what should and shouldn't be discussed during the phone screen. This is not the time to ask about salary, benefits, or vacation time. Those questions should wait until someone offers you a job, and you're not there yet. The screener's only goal is to determine whether you should get an in-person interview, not the job. So it's important to focus on your potential employer's needs, not yours. It's also important to know certain things an employer shouldn't ask. By law, employers are prevented from asking about your age, race, gender, nationality, religion, disabilities, marital status, or your children. And while it's not illegal for you to bring these issues up, it's best to leave them out of the discussion along with your political opinions. Stick to topics related to the job and your ability to do it. So let's assume you've passed the phone screen. On to the interview. Job interviews come in many forms. You may be offered a job after a single interview with a senior manager, or you may interview a series of times with different people within the organization. You may even interview with an entire staff. Interviews may go an hour, a whole day, or in repeat visits over a series of weeks, depending on how the employer is running the search. It's all up to the organization and what it's looking for. The job, the organization, and their philosophy about recruiting new talent all factor into the way you'll be interviewed. HR runs this process. They schedule the interview and indicate who you'll be meeting. If you're being recruited from out of town, you'll also work with them to make travel arrangements. You shouldn't be afraid to ask questions about the people you'll be meeting. Take a minute to look them up on the organization's website or social media to see if you can find out a little about them and their background. It also wouldn't hurt to make yourself a file folder with all this background for the interview. Start a list of questions you plan to ask during each interview segment for the folder as well. Remember, this is your chance to interview the management of the company or organization you hope to work for. Oh, and one more thing, appearance counts. It's generally a good idea to dress in business attire for an interview, even if your prospective employer's dress code is business casual. Dressing well and knowing as much about the job and the organization you want to work for is a sign of respect for a potential employer, and it will give them a preview of how you'll deal with your future coworkers and clients if you're hired. Organizations want to see if you'll fit, and everything you do will be closely watched by hiring managers and HR employees, so put your best foot forward. What comes next? It could be a day, it could be weeks, but good news, you did great and you got the job. But HR's work isn't over, and neither is yours. Let's take a look at how job and salary offers are made by employers and how you should respond.